This video is part 1 of the ScriboQ assignment book, and it only deals with these 2 pages. This video is long, but it explains a lot of things because there's a lot of detail in each of these little sections, so I would recommend watching it through its entirety. And you can also have parents watch the video so they can learn how to use the book too. Everything that I will talk about is also on pages 6 through 9 in these gray boxes. Okay, so to begin, I use highlighted boxes. That's the main thing for this chart, is that we're going to use colors and quickly mark these in, and so that the child can see this is exactly what I have to practice. As you probably experienced also with your students, that sometimes they'll come back and say, oh, I didn't see that song or that piece on the notebook. And sometimes maybe I wasn't writing clear enough, or I didn't indent it in the same way or something, or it was hidden on the page, or sometimes they're lazy, of course. But this way they can see exactly which pieces they have. They can tell what's new and what's review. So I use these 3 colors, and any color would be fine. I choose pink for new, yellow for review, and then blue. And I use them because those were the most common colors that were available. If you do change to different colors, make sure that you write that in for the parents, because they absolutely check back here to see what colors mean what. And then my new best friend now is this whiteout, because once in a while I will make an error in the wrong box, and I usually, I could keep it, of course, but you can quickly get rid of that by using the whiteout. The notes, of course, that's pretty common. You're going to put your notes here. I tend to put the notes for the theory pages in the back right here, or I'll put keyboard studies right here. These songs, the repertoire and the working pieces, I put those notes here, and supplementary music I will put over here. And the left hand, right hand, both hands, that's pretty obvious to us, but make sure the kids understand that BH isn't as common, but both hands for there. And there is a darker line right here for you to see, so that when you're looking over here that you can quickly find that. On the top, on the next page, the 1-point focus, which we learned in Suzuki education, is carried throughout this whole book, and so to make sure the kids understand that, I definitely use those words a lot when I'm teaching. Keyboard studies, I tend to use chords, pentascales, scales, arpeggios, progressions, cadences. You can, of course, use whatever you want. Metronome marking, I do tell the parents that the two capital M's means metronome marking, and I help them to find a metronome on their phone. A lot of my kids have tablets. They all have something, a tablet or a phone, that they bring to the lesson because we record things. And I'm the happiest if they have their own tablet and it's used only for lessons. It's not full of games and pictures and videos, so that we have energy in the battery's not dead, and that we have a lot of space. So I have them download the metronome at the lesson, so we have that. I explained to them the difference between working pieces and repertoire. That working pieces will be the pieces that we're working on, and they're going to work on this column. Their pieces, and then when they become review, they're going to be over here. So repertoire, after a few weeks, pieces will be moved from the right column to the left column. Repertoire is French for a collection of works, so the child's going to begin their own collection of work, and this is our way of helping them to review. It says review this many per day, and that section is right there. And so on this example, if they had all these pieces, this is 12 pieces, I always ask how many practices I can expect from the child with their other activities or their lifestyle. And if I'm going to get 4, then I'm going to divide this by 4. If I get 5, I'm going to divide it by 5. So that's why I have 2 or 3 per day. And they're supposed to tally in there, and I can say that the kids are really good at tallying. They actually like tallying. So they should have 1 tally per box at the end of the week, no more. What that tally does is it gives them a visual that says, oh, I haven't practiced that one for a long time. So this is probably my favorite part of this whole book, is that I'm way better at keeping track of the review songs because they do have a recital coming up. eventually, and I want them to remember these pieces, because too often I would hear that they hadn't practiced that piece in weeks when I would say, okay, let's play variation A. Let's play your theme, and then they would say they hadn't played it for weeks. This definitely remedies that. So I also tell them that they are not practicing for me. That I ask them, do I get better when you practice these pieces, or does mom get better, does dad get better? And then I help them to know that this just you gets better at these practices. So they're not trying to pull one over on us by just marking that off, but you really do want to practice those pieces. The CD videos you can use in several ways. Right here it says that practice the entire CD 1, 2, 3 times per week, and you establish that with them on the first day, how many times you would like that. If you have a 3 and a 4, they could write the 4 and a 5, they could write that in. And that the music listening is super important. I want them to stress that this is important, so I definitely read this part to them. This music can be listened to in the background in several ways: during a task, at bedtime, or in the car. In addition, your child may be asked to listen to parts of these things attentively. So that's what I do here. The ones I'm always asking for about the next 4 songs for them to listen to very attentively, so that by the time we get to them, that they know those songs well. And I do not teach them until they know those songs well, so it's their advantage to really pay attention to them. And the videos here can be videos that the parents video record during the lesson. I personally have 100 and so videos on a private channel for my students to watch, with really little increments of something how to do, because I've done this a long time, and it's just really a lot easier if they can just go look at this video, and it's worked well. Right. Then there's some exercises here. These are exercises that I have added because they're important to me. I find that these 4 exercises here, I find that there's quite a jump, as I'm sure you do, from variation A to variation D. There's just really a lot of things the students learn. So I stick in these little tiny exercises, and I have no problem the students have no problem playing theme as legato repeated notes, and because of these tiny little exercises. So I go into depth in part B of these exercises, and then there's also a separate video on each of these to learn, because I think they are very important. And of course, tonalization would be the 5th one, 5th exercise. Then tabs. I love tabs. It makes things way easier, and I give them tabs. These are my favorites because they come off easily, and I move the tab every week to the new lesson, and so you want it to be able to stick for a long time. So that's why I prefer these thick tabs. And I have one on the lesson plan, and I have one usually whatever theory pages we're using, I have one on there, and then one on something else. Whatever we use often, I like to have tabs, because it just helps them be organized, because I am helping them, I am teaching them to be organized also. So it's just a win-win situation. They can quickly find something, because for them to go find the theory page, searching for it in the back, it's not as likely that they're going to do that, but if I have a tab on there, they're going to go to it quite quickly. So these tallies that I ask them to do, for the pentascales and stuff, that I do want them to play those every day. And then the other pieces too. So this would be a STAR student's tallying that they have done everything that I have said. And it is pretty common that the kids will play everything I say. So this student here has very few tally marks. So this is one of those let's chat situations. For example, here in Baby Shark, there are 10 tallies, and there should never be more than 5, or if they practice 7 days a week, then there should be no more than 7, but this is just 1 tally mark per day. It's great that they liked that song a lot, but there are some other things to do. So I am teaching them to be responsible. that if this is what I ask of them, this is what I expect them to do. And then they're really not being respectful to me or to themselves, which I will talk about in a minute. So I don't get mad. I just, well, let's talk about how come you're not practicing this and what happened. If this happens like 3 weeks in a row, then I usually will talk to the parents, like maybe this is not a good time of their life to be taking lessons. And then, here's just what the notes look like. When I do get to transposing, I add this symbol, I just yellow with the pink on top, because those are the two colors I have, of course. And so that stands for transposing. So the next 2 pages have to do with, that all has to do with this page. Okay, so the critique technique part right here. This is very important for me to have the student have this visible to them during the practices, because I'm trying to have them make the decisions about if they should practice more on a piece or not. I don't want them to just rely on me saying, okay, that was good, next, next, next. I want them to like enter into the song, meaning make a decision. Don't just play it 3 times because I said 3 times. Play it, make a decision on what was good, what needs improvement. So we want them to do that. We have to give them some questions. So these first 3 questions, did I play the correct notes? Did I play the correct rhythm? And did I use the correct fingers? Those are just the big 3 things to think about. And once that's usually taken care of in the first week, but those are the questions they can ask themselves. Number 4 is about relaxing the elbows, because we don't think about them much, but sometimes we do have these chicken arms coming up. So if they could just think about that when they're playing, just drop those elbows to the ground. They think that's a strange thing to do, but it's something I learned in a Lamaze class or some child bearing class. And just to keep that very much relaxation idea going on. So keep the elbows relaxed on my side. Then are my fingers curved? These next 4 are about the same thing. So of course I'm trying to go for a curved finger here, here, and here. Nice hand position. And I do have them drop their arm to the side. And I show them that is your natural position. We bring that up, and that's how we really want to hold our hand. So in this part, are my fingers curved? That would be that little situation. Number 6 is, do my finger pips touch the keys instead of my fingertips or pads? So the way I teach, I coined the word pips many, many years ago. And so instead of the kids playing on their tips, which kind of causes stress to our hands, and plus it clicks the fingernails often too. And then the pads, we don't want them playing on the pads either. But halfway in between there are our pips. And that's really the more natural position of us playing. When we drop our hand, it does get to that position. So I'm trying to help them to play just with a little more relaxed fingers. So that's how I talk about the pips. If pips isn't something you want them to play, then always call it tips. And then, do I have an arched finger placement on the keys? And this would be considered the rainbow position. I'm sure some of you use that idea. This middle finger goes farther, so of course that one it's longer, it has to go farther on the key. So there's that rainbow position. And I usually just have 4 fingers on the keys, and then when the thumb comes up, then the hand does arch a little bit more like that. And then number 8, do I have control of each finger? It's easy to play a couple fingers, blending with the other, but I want to make sure that they can play each finger individually. And then do my arm and the top of my hand make a straight road? So there's a little video I have under Freddie about talking about the straight road. So when we're playing Mississippi Hop Frog, we want to make sure that we're not doing that or that, but we want to keep this straight road. So check that out if you want to learn more about the straight road. And then what other areas should I focus on? That's really good because as they get older, they have a lot more things to focus on with their pieces. And so again, they're making the decision about the second time they play the piece, the third time they play the piece. And it's very, very good for them to be able to make those decisions. Then this page is excellent. It has to do with this. It's really been helpful for the students. So helpful points for a smooth practices. So the box is under here. Positive attitude. This point is particularly helpful for both the student and the teacher. The student can gauge how the week went. The student can scan the week. If there are several 2s and 3s, then this opens up a great discussion. The teacher can offer suggestions for practicing that might not otherwise come up. So I do have the students fill this out after their lesson. So at first glance, you see how many days they practiced. And the positive attitude has just really been good because I have never received a 1. Once in a while, I will get a 2, but there's mostly 3s and 4s and a lot of 5s. It just tells them that, some days I'm just not as positive, but I can still practice. Maybe I became more positive while I practiced because I enjoyed playing, but that's a nice thing for me to see. Respect. This point is also beneficial. It can be used in 2 ways. When the parent practices with the student, the student circles how respectful he or she was to the parent. After all, the parent could be watching TV and eating bonbons, but choose to help the student. This wonderful time spent together is a gift for the child and for the parent. And that's a really nice sentence if it's true. If the attitude of each of them if they have respect for each other, I bow to my students. We bow to each other at a sign of respect when we start the lesson. And sometimes I suggest that the parents do that too, because it's a different thing than we're used to doing in the United States, so that when you're doing that, it's just a little different. You just stop and look at each other's eyes and bow. So there's that sign of respect. But the parents could be doing something else, but they choose to help the student. So we want the student to know that they are giving of their time. And for the parent to know that this is really good, special time together, that, years and years you spend together. So, make the best of that and enjoy it. Find the positives with this. And if the student practices alone, or when the student practices alone, he or she can be respectful to the teacher by practicing what is written on the lesson assignment, or they can be respectful to themselves by disciplining themselves to say, well, this is what the teacher gives me, this is what I should practice. And it just helps them be responsible children. This one's been great. No negative comments, and I've had a lot of fun with that. And I can say that my recitals go well because of this. We practice this every week at the lesson, and they are supposed to practice this at their practices too. So no negative comments, meaning no acknowledgement of mistakes while playing a piece. This point teaches students a lifelong skill. Being comfortable with making mistakes helps practices and performances to go smoother. Many people make noises like sighs and grunts, or movements like shaking their head when they make a mistake. Becoming aware of this habit and accepting the mistake helps one to move on. We cannot correct the mistake at the moment, so don't dwell on it. When the time is right, critique that piece. So especially at a performance, if someone hears the mistake, they hear it. They're not going to remember that, or they're not going to say, hey, you made 5 mistakes. I tell the kids this all the time. But the important thing is your composure. How did you go on? And then I also tell them that when you make a mistake and then you make a comment, that's like a double whammy on that mistake. So it's like 2 mistakes. You're doubling your mistakes. So just let it go. And then at the end, if we're just practicing, then you can think about how you can improve on that time, on that practice, on that piece or that mistake. So that's when the time is right, after you're done playing and during a practice, not during a recital or a performance. We don't go back and correct mistakes. So that's been really, really good. So watch yourself. I suggest watching yourself for the next week or so, and how many times do you make a mistake and make some kind of a grunt. It's been fun. And then this asking questions has been really good for the parents, and it's probably my greatest advice as a parent and a teacher to keep things light, is to ask questions instead of correcting or accusing the child. Rethink what you want to say to your child, what you want to accomplish. Asking questions allows the child to make the decision. No one, including you and me, likes to be corrected, so let the child correct themselves. For example, your child uses an incorrect finger. Don't say you used the wrong finger. Instead, Ask, did you use the correct finger? And I didn't say, did you use the wrong finger? Did you use the correct finger? That's the positive. Your child then thinks about the question, corrects it, and more easily remembers it next time. Hopefully, maybe you have to say it a couple times, but you let them make that decision. Another example, the teacher's notes say, get softer on the endings. Your child forgets to get softer. Don't say, you forgot to get softer. Instead, ask, did you get softer at the end of the piece? And then your child can make that decision. Keep it light. Keep the atmosphere light. No piece is ever worth bringing either of you to tears, the parent or the teacher or the child. When the tension gets high, change to another piece or try again later. Strive to keep the piano practicing experience as a positive one. And I can say that there's no piece worth it in the world that's more important than my child when I'm practicing with them. And I want the parents to know that it's just a piece of music. We would like them to play well, but it's not worth getting in a fight over it. And the last thing is the quotes from Dr. Suzuki. There are 26 quotes in the book, so 52 pages, 52 lesson plans, so they hear them twice. And it's a great idea. They can read this every day, what Dr. Suzuki's like, because there's such a depth of humanity in Suzuki, Dr. Suzuki, that these kids should know. This is the method that this person is changing their life. So to know him, it would be really great. So it's great to be to read those. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it.